Deep beneath the sands of Egypt, there are secrets older than history itself, secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. When a team of archaeologists entered an untouched chamber inside the Great Pyramid, they thought they had made the discovery of the century. Instead, they awakened something that should have remained buried forever. Tonight, you'll hear the terrifying account of what they found out and why no one who entered that chamber was ever the same again. If you love true chilling tales from the darkest corners of the earth, make sure to subscribe now so you never miss what comes next, because this is a story you won't be able to forget. The Unearthed Passage. The desert sun hung heavy above the Giza Plateau, its light shimmering against the limestone blocks of the Great Pyramid. Dr. Adrian Cross had been on countless expeditions inside this colossal structure, but today felt it wrong. His boots crunched against the sand as he approached the northern entrance that a crew of archaeologists was gathered around an exposed section of the pyramid's inner wall, their faces pale despite the heat. Adrian called Dr. Naomi Khalid, brushing sand from her sleeves. "You need to see this." The wall before them was unlike the others, smooth, untouched, and bearing no hieroglyphs. Naomi pointed to a hairline, crack running vertically down its center. With careful chiseling, the team loosened the outer limestone, revealing a narrow, jagged slit. From the darkness beyond, a gust of air escaped, cold, metallic, and carrying the foul stench of something long dead. Adrian's stomach twisted. He stepped closer, tracing his fingers along the stone. That's when he saw it. A symbol burned deep into the rock. It was black, almost charred, and oddly warm to the touch. The shape was alien, neither hieroglyph nor known ancient script. The lines bent unnaturally, forming a spiral that seemed to draw the eye inward. For a brief second, Adrian swore he felt it pulse. Behind him, the other archaeologists exchanged uneasy glances. Somewhere within the darkness, faint and far away, something moved. Whispers in the dark. The narrow corridor swallowed them whole. Torches hissed and sputtered as they entered, their flames barely pushing back the pitch black. The stone walls closed in around them, etched with no markings, only smooth, oppressive silence. Then Adrian heard it, a whisper, he first. It was so faint he thought it was the sound of his own breath echoing. But it grew, layering over itself, until the murmur formed distinct sounds, a language he did not recognize. Older and harsher than ancient Egyptian. Naomi froze mid-step. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. The voice came again, clearer this time, like a hiss drawn across glass. "You should not be here." The words were not spoken aloud. They slid into their minds, cold and invasive. Adrian spun around, torch raised high. The corridor behind them was empty, yet the whisper persisted, crawling under his skin. The air grew heavier. Each step forward made the darkness seem thicker, as though the shadows themselves resisted their movement. The first warning. After what felt like hours, the passage widened into a small chamber. The air here was damp, unnaturally cold for the desert depths. The walls were covered not in hieroglyphs, but in grotesque carvings, figures with elongated skulls, jaws split wide with rows of sharp teeth, and eyes that were nothing but deep, hollow pits. In the center lay a cracked stone tablet, its surface etched with lines that seemed to writhe under the torchlight. Naomi crouched, brushing dust away. The inscriptions were written in a dialect that barely resembled ancient Egyptian. Her voice shook as she translated. "To awaken the buried is to invite the end of the sky." The last word had barely left her lips when the torches dimmed, their flames shrinking to thin blue needles. The cold deepened until their breath came out in thick clouds. From somewhere below their feet came a single, hollow knock, like a coffin lid tapping from inside. The descent. The sound was followed by a sharp rumble. The ground behind them split open, stones crashing into the darkness. The passage they had entered through collapsed in seconds, sealing them inside. The only way forward was down. They found a narrow spiral staircase leading deeper into the pyramid's hidden bowels. The steps were slick not with water, but with something thicker. Adrian knelt and dipped his fingers into it. The torchlight caught the liquid's dark crimson sheen that it was blood, fresh blood. Naomi's face went pale. This can't be possible. There's no one else down here. The staircase seemed to wind endlessly. The deeper they descended, the more the air thickened, pressing against their chests. Somewhere far below, something scraped against stone. Slow and deliberate, the chamber of eyes. They reached a vast underground hall. The ceiling so high their torchlight couldn't touch it as Adrian moved forward. The walls came into view and his breath caught in his throat. Thousands of eyes stared back at him. At first he thought they were carved from stone, but when he leaned closer, he realized the truth. They were real, perfectly preserved human eyes, embedded into the walls, lids forever frozen open. The silence was unbearable. Even their footsteps sounded swallowed. In the hall's center lay a massive stone sarcophagus, bound tightly with rusted iron chains. Its surface etched with the same black spiral symbol from the entrance. As Adrian approached, a slow scratching began from inside, like claws raking against stone. The seal breaks. The scratching grew louder. It was rhythmic. Now scrape, pause. Scrape, each sound followed by a faint metallic ring, like nails dragging over iron. Naomi's hand tightened on her torch. Sweat rolled down her temple despite the freezing air. Adrian, she whispered. Something's alive in there. He wanted to deny it, but the sound was too deliberate, too purposeful. The sarcophagus itself seemed to tremble, the chains clinking against the stone like wind chimes in a storm. Except there was no wind here, only the stale, suffocating air of something buried for thousands of years. A sudden crack split the silence point. One of the rusted chains snapped clean in half, clattering to the floor. No one had touched it. The team staggered back. Hassan, the youngest member, muttered in Arabic, crossing himself over and over. Another chain broke, then another. From the seams of the sarcophagus lid, a thick black mist began to seep out. It curled and twisted like smoke, but moved with a mind of its own, searching, tasting the it wrapped around Adrian's ankles before he even realized, ice cold and sticky, leaving a faint burning sensation where it touched skin. Then came the sound, a deep, low growl, too resonant for any human throat. It reverberated in their bones, making teeth chatter. The mist grew thicker, spilling across the chamber like water flooding a room. The last chain gave way with a deafening snap. The sarcophagus lid shifted slightly, releasing another wave of the metallic stench that made everyone gag. Naomi's torch flickered, almost dying, as a voice low, ancient, and heavy echoed inside all of their heads at once. Who dares? The thing inside. The stone lid slid aside with a grinding moan, revealing the darkness within it. First, Adrian thought the coffin was empty, just a pit of blackness, so deep the torchlight could not penetrate. Then movement, the figure unfolded itself from the shadows. Its skin was the color of burnt leather, stretched impossibly tight over jagged bones. Long, clawed fingers clicked against the stone as it rose. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, empty sockets weeping a thick, black liquid that steamed when it touched the floor. It opened its mouth slowly, and the sound that came out was neither human nor animal. It was like a chorus of voices speaking as one, all whispering directly into their skulls. You that came for secrets. The creature leaned forward, its jaw unhinging wider than any humans could. You will leave with nothing. Hassan screamed and stumbled backward, dropping his torch. The flames hit the ground and fizzled into nothing against the black mist now spilling faster from the coffin. The temperature plummeted, their breath freezing midair. Naomi clutched Adrian's arm. We have to seal it again. But the creature took a slow step forward, its clawed feet scraping the stone, leaving deep gouges in the floor. It smiled. The first death. The mist struck without warning, shooting forward like a living spear that it wrapped around Hassan's throat, lifting him off his feet. His screams were muffled as his body convulsed violently. Adrian tried to pull him free, but the black vapor burned his hands like acid. Hassan's eyes rolled back, his skin shriveling as though decades were being sucked out of him in seconds. There was a sound like dry leaves crushing underfoot, and then he was gone. Where Hassan had been a moment before, there was now only a small mound of fine gray ash, already scattering into the air. The creature bent down, dragging one clawed hand through the ashes, lifting it to its face. It inhaled deeply, letting out a satisfied hiss. Naomi's voice cracked. Adrian did its feeding. The realization hit them all at once. They weren't trapped here with it, had been trapped here with no food for centuries. Now that it was starving, Adrian grabbed Naomi by the wrist. Run, they sprinted toward the nearest tunnel, their footsteps echoing frantically off the stone. The wall seemed to stretch endlessly, twisting and bending in ways that made no architectural sense. It felt as if the pyramid itself was alive, shifting to herd them deeper. Behind them came the sound sharp, staccato, and unnervingly fast, claws scraping stone. The creature wasn't walking, it was crawling. Every so often, a cold gust would brush the back of Adrian's neck as, though it was only inches behind him, Naomi's torch sputtered and died, plunging them into near blackness, the only light now the faint, sickly glow radiating from the creature's bleeding eye sockets. They turned corner after corner, lungs burning, hearts pounding. But no matter how fast they ran, the scraping sound stayed just as close, then silence. Naomi slowed, gasping. Did we lose? A skeletal hand shot from the darkness ahead, claws slicing the air inches from her face. The room of the forgotten. They tumbled into a vast circular chamber, slamming the heavy stone door behind them. The torches they had lit earlier were still burning here, casting a dull amber light. It was only then they saw the walls, that hundreds, maybe thousands of human skeletons were chained to the stone, each one in a posture of desperation. Some had arms outstretched, fingers broken from clawing at the walls. Others had skulls tilted back in silent screams, jaws locked open for eternity. The floor was littered with scraps of ancient cloth and rusted tool shovels, chisels, even weapons all useless against whatever had trapped them here. In the center of the room, upon a low pedestal, lay an object so out of place it seemed almost new. A dagger of pure black obsidian, its blade etched with the same spiral symbol. The hilt was wrapped in some kind of sinewy leather that still looked moist. Naomi approached slowly, as though in a trance. The moment her fingers closed around the hilt, the whispers in their heads stopped. The air, heavy and oppressive just moments ago, seemed to freeze in anticipation. Adrian swallowed hard. Naomi, I think it wants you to use that. The blood price. Naomi stood frozen, the black obsidian dagger heavy in her trembling hand. The moment she touched it, something ancient and hungry shifted in the air. The walls seemed to lean inward, the skeletal remains rattling in their chains, as if sensing the weapon's presence. Adrian could see it in her eyes. She wasn't fully here anymore. Her gaze had gone glassy, her breath shallow. Then her lips began to move, whispering words in a tongue that made the hair on the back of his neck rise. The sound was wet, guttural, and wrong, as though spoken by a throat filled with water. Suddenly, images flooded Adrian's mind. They weren't his memories. He knew that instantly. He saw priests in golden masks kneeling before the sarcophagus, chanting as the creature inside writhed and screamed. He saw villages set aflame, men, women, and children dragged into the pyramid by the hundreds, their bodies piled high before the altar. The dagger was always there, glinting black in the torchlight, its blade drinking deep of their blood. The vision shifted. He saw the priest stab the creature through the chest, its body convulsing violently. The dagger's hilt began to glow with a faint crimson light, but the price for wielding it became clear. The priest's own body withered instantly. collapsing into ash as the dagger fell to the floor. Naomi's whispering stopped abruptly. She looked at Adrian, her face pale but strangely calm. "It needs blood," she said softly. "It will only die if the one who strikes it gives themselves to it." Adrian's stomach nodded. Naomi, her voice hardened. "If I don't make it seal the entrance, burn it all. Don't let this thing ever walk the earth again." From somewhere beyond the door, the claws scraped against stone, closer now, dragging their doom with every step. The confrontation. The stone door shuddered violently, dust raining down from above as something slammed into it from the other side. The sound was deafening, an unholy mixture of bone cracking and metal screeching. The creature didn't knock to be let in, it was tearing its way through. Naomi gripped the dagger with both hands, the obsidian gleaming unnaturally in the flickering light. Adrian could see her shoulders trembling, but her eyes burned with a strange determination. The door split down the middle with a thunderous crack. Through the widening gap, the creature emerged, its charred skin splitting in fresh, wet cracks as it squeezed into the room. It was taller than Adrian remembered, its limbs impossibly long, fingers scraping deep scars into the stone floor as it moved. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. Its empty eye sockets fixed on Naomi, and the corners of its too wide mouth curled upward in a mockery of a smile. Adrian backed toward the far wall, feeling every muscle in his body scream to run, but his feet stayed rooted. The air was electric, buzzing with a sound too low to be heard and too deep to be ignored. Naomi let out a sharp cry and charged. The dagger met the creature's chest with a sickening thunk, sinking deep as if the flesh had been waiting for it. The creature screamed, not with its mouth, but with every part of itself. The walls shook, the air turned to liquid fire in Adrian's lungs. The black mist erupted violently, thrashing like a living storm. The sacrifice. The creature stumbled backward, clutching the dagger buried in its chest. Black liquid gushed out, hitting the floor with a sizzling hiss. The stench was unbearable, like burning hair and rotting meat boiled together. Naomi's body jerked violently, as though an invisible force was tearing her apart from the inside. Her skin began to darken, cracks forming along her arms and face, glowing faintly red beneath the surface. The dagger's hilt pulsed with a heartbeat-like rhythm. Adrian rushed forward, but she held up a trembling hand to stop him. "Go now," she gasped, her voice raw and breaking. The creature's scream grew higher, sharper, until Adrian felt blood trickle from his ears. Chunks of stone fell from the ceiling as the pyramid itself seemed to reject what was happening. Naomi's body began to collapse inward, her form disintegrating into ash that scattered on an unfelt wind. The dagger clattered to the floor, its black blade now faintly glowing crimson. The creature's form faltered, its long limbs collapsing under its own weight as it crumpled into a twitching heap. Adrian grabbed the dagger, ignoring the burn that seared his palm, and ran behind him. The chamber's walls split apart, stone blocks tumbling like children's toys. The pyramid roared. The escape. The corridors twisted around him, and for a horrible moment, Adrian realized the pyramid's layout was changing again, walls closing, opening ceiling shut, forcing him toward certain death. His lungs burned, every breath tasting of dust and decay. He could still hear it, the creature's dying wail echoing endlessly, a sound too big to belong to one throat. That it followed him, vibrating through the walls and floor. Turning a corner, he saw its sunlight, blinding, glorious sunlight spilling down from the original entrance. Now partially unsealed, he sprinted, his legs screaming in protest as the ground buckled beneath him. That a massive stone slab crashed down just behind him, missing his foot by inches. Another fell ahead, sealing the way. He dove through the narrowing gap, rolling onto the hot sand outside. The moment he hit the open air, the ground beneath the pyramid trembled violently. The hidden entrance caved in entirely, a deafening rumble sending plumes of dust into the sky. When the shaking stopped, the desert was silent again, too silent. Adrian lay there, chest heaving, gripping the dagger so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had escaped, but something told him the story wasn't over. The last whisper. Weeks later, Adrian sat in his dimly lit Cairo apartment, the desert heat pressing against the shutters. The dagger lay on the table in front of him, wrapped in thick cloth. He hadn't been able to bring himself to destroy it. Every night since the escape, he had dreamed of Naomi, her ash-gray face, whispering words he couldn't quite understand. And every morning, he woke to find the black spiral symbol faintly burned into his palm, darker than the day before. That evening, as the city outside buzzed with life, Adrian poured himself a glass of whiskey and tried to convince himself it was over. The creature was dead, the pyramid sealed, but as he drifted towards sleep, the air in his apartment turned cold as shadows stretched across the floor. Though no light had shifted, and then clear as day heard it, the same voice that had once filled the pyramid's depths, whispering against his ear, "The seal will break again, and you will open it for me." Adrian's eyes snapped open, and there, in the reflection of the window, something stood behind him, tall, skeletal, and smiling. "If you thought this was the end, I think again. The shadows are still moving, and somewhere out there, it's waiting for you." If this story sent chills down your spine, don't let it vanish into the dark. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare. Because the next tale that might just be worse than this one. Sweet dreams. If you can sleep tonight.